Hello and welcome to the Beckoning Bookshelf. I am your host, Jeffrey Ashcraft. Let's cut straight to the chase. Who am I and what am I doing? Well, one of those questions is easy to answer, while the other one, not so much. So we're going to cover the easy one first. Who am I? Well, like I said, I'm Jeffrey Ashcraft, and I really like books. I love everything about books. I love how they feel, how they look on a good bookshelf, how they sound, especially a good hardback book. I love the undiscovered adventures, the undiscovered treasures inside a book, the lessons to be learned, the characters to meet. I love going into a bookstore or a library and just being surrounded by all of these unopened treasure troves. I love especially when I find a good book that I just never expected to find. And that's always really, really exciting for me. So, since this is a book-themed channel, and I really like books, I figured I'd give my book resume here. Kinda. Just talk about my experience with books. Why I like them so much. And that'd be kind of a way to introduce myself. So, like I said, just to bear repeating again, I like books. And I've always liked books. Even as a kid, but I didn't really feed my interest in books as a kid. I didn't read a lot of novels. If honestly, if the book didn't have pictures, I didn't really care. My library consisted pretty much of comic books. Here. Like this, The Astonishing X-Men, The Age of Apocalypse, Volume 1. This is the type of stuff that I would read. This was released back in the 90s, and I should not have read this, by the way. The Age of Apocalypse run is rather extreme, and so for a kid, it was a little much. But I read safer things as well. Garfield, Calvin and Hobbes. And that's not to say I didn't read any novels. I did read Harry Potter and The Hobbit and Ender's Game. I also read the obligatory school library, like what every kid is required to read throughout school. Animal Farm, The Giver, To Kill a Mockingbird, Hatchet. So I did read some books, but again, like I said, I never really nurtured that interest until I was in college. And that's when I started actually reading books for fun. And there's a few reasons why I did this. I needed a form of entertainment in college that I could afford. And books were an easy, affordable form of entertainment. That helped me immensely. Books got me through college. I do 100%. When I was in college, I would often go onto campus like 8 in the morning and stay on campus till 10 in the evening. And I worked on campus, so I'd be doing homework, class, and work all day. And books are how I stayed sane throughout all of it. Books are how I regenerated myself through the day. And that's when I started to realize that I actually really like books. That books are great. I mean, again, they're very affordable. A very affordable form of entertainment. A $5 paperback book can entertain me for hours. Versus like a $20 2-hour movie. So, and for a guy who was broke in college, the cheap books were a godsend. I loved finding a good $5 book that could entertain me for a long time. Books were also a very accessible form of entertainment. I could read them anytime, wherever I was, as long as I had light and a book. I didn't need a screen, I didn't need headphones, I didn't need sound. I could just read the book, as long as I had light in the book. So I could read on the way to class. I could read when I was waiting for class to start, which I guess kind of gave me a bit of a talent or a skill, I suppose, among readers. I don't know. Because on more than one occasion, I'd be reading the book, waiting for class to start, and the professor would get up to start class, and I would be very, very tempted to say, sit down, I'm reading right now, I'll let you know when I'm done. Never did, because I'm not insane. But that would make a really interesting day for the professor, I am sure. But, I don't know, they gave me the talent in order to be able to put down a book wherever I'm at and pick it up wherever I was at, even if I'm in the middle of a paragraph. When I talk with other book readers, they tend to have trouble, some of them tend to have trouble doing that. So, I don't know if that's a rare skill I have or what. But one other thing I really enjoyed about books in college was, like I said, it was a way to re-energize me, to regenerate myself throughout the day. Because you can get mentally exhausted if you just keep going, you're just mentally running throughout the whole day in college. And books were a perfect way to relax while not completely stopping my brain. So let me explain. When I would be sitting there doing homework for hours and my brain would just get exhausted, the wheels just keep turning and turning and turning, I realized that if I watched, say, some YouTube video, or if I doom scrolled on social media, or if I watched a TV show or something, it would be a lot harder to get back to work versus if I read a book for 30 minutes. It'd be much easier to get back to work. And I realized that it's because when I did something on a screen, my brain practically shut down. But if I read a book, my brain would never fully shut down. It just went at a more leisurely pace. It's kind of like if you're running, when you're doing homework or work or just going to class, you're mentally running, right? So it's like when you're running and you need a break. So either you sit down and once you're done sitting down, you have to get your motion going again. And anyone who understands the laws of motion, they know that it takes energy to get moving again. But what if instead of just sitting down, you just walked? It's a good way to keep your motion going, but also to allow yourself to rest. That was reading for me when I was doing homework. And again, like I said, books got me through college. And that's where I was really starting to feed my interest in books. And now I read a lot more books. A lot of these books you see behind me are from after college, because now I can actually afford books. When I was in college, I couldn't afford books. I couldn't afford anything in college. And when I was a kid, I didn't really care. So most of my library has been gathered since college. And that's kind of my history with books. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about why I like them so much. And a book has the story within, right? Novels have the story within the pages. But there's also stories connected to the book that I find fascinating, that I find so very interesting to explore. For example, how did the author come up with the idea for the book? What did the author think about when they were writing the book? What does the author think about the book now? And also with the readers. How did you discover the book? What do you think of the book? Do you like the book? Do you hate the book? I find all those stories fascinating. So it's not just the stories within the pages, but also the stories connected to the book. And that's why I have this book out. Louis L'Amour. This is a Hopalong Cassidy novel, Troubleshooter. So, I was, like a lot of people, I'd seen Louis L'Amour, everywhere, because his books are everywhere. Even in some random gas station in the middle of nowhere, there's going to be a shelf of Louis L'Amour books. Right next to some taxidermy section or some just random sword collection. But Louis L'Amour books are everywhere. But I never really cared to read one. But I knew that my grandfather was a big fan of Louis L'Amour. So one day when I was visiting him, I had the crazy idea to ask him if there was a Louis L'Amour book that he would suggest that I read. Just to have a way. I figured that would be a good way to connect with him. Not that I, didn't already connect with him in any ways, but I thought it'd be something new, some new connection I could make and be able to learn more about him. And he was so excited. He shuffled away, and then he brought back Louis L'Amour, Troubleshooter. So he let me borrow the book. I read it, loved it. Great book. I'd like Hopalong Cassidy. So Louis L'Amour writes a lot of books. Hopalong Cassidy is one of his recurring characters. And really enjoyed it. Lots of characters in this book. It's hard to keep track of all of them, but it was a fun, entertaining, and pretty light read. So, like I said, I read it, went back and we talked about it, and he went and got me another Louis L'Amour book. So I actually read a few from him. Regrettably, he's passed since then, which is why I have this book now. I was lucky enough to get it. And it'll be forever one of my treasured books because of that connection I have with my grandfather. And this is really cool. It actually has his notes in the back about the characters in the book. Because one of the things we talked about was that he had trouble following all the different characters. He had to write notes. So that's a really cool connection I have with this book. And so that's one of the things that's like I was saying, that's one of the things I love about books, is the connections that not only people can have with the book, but with other people through the book. So that's my history and view of books for the most part, and it's a really good time to transition to the second question. What am I doing? Like I said earlier, this one's not so easy to answer because I'm not entirely sure. But I think a quote from C.S. Lewis can kind of summarize it maybe in a way. But this is something that C.S. Lewis once said about books. When one has read a book, I think there is nothing so nice as discussing it with someone else, even though it sometimes produces rather fierce arguments. You gotta love C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis is spectacular. Such a man of genius. And I couldn't agree more. There's something just absolutely fun about talking to other people about a book you've read, or hearing about books they've read. I mean, that's why book clubs exist. There's book clubs everywhere because people enjoy gathering around and connecting through a book. And that's kind of what this is. I mean, for me, it's a fun opportunity to talk about stuff I enjoy. I enjoy books. So, yeah, it's a fun opportunity to do that. And hopefully for you, it's also a way that you can connect with books, to encourage you to connect with books. I mean, when was the last time you asked someone, what is one of their favorite books? Or what are they reading lately? You can learn a lot about a person simply by what they read or what they like to read, even if they don't read. You know? So, like, what happens then? If you ask someone, oh, what do you read lately? Oh, I don't read books. Well, stories are not only contained in books. Ask them what their favorite movie is. Ask them if there's any cool movies they watched lately. And you can still get a similar experience, similar connections. Do I think it's as cool as books? No. But at least it's there. And so hopefully this will also provide you with channels to, well, I hope to hear about your own experiences with books. Since you don't just have to hear from me, I'd love to hear from you. I'm not sure how to do that yet. Maybe in the comments, maybe in emails. I'm figuring all this out because I'm just starting. But hopefully there will be that connection as well and that encouragement to talk to people about these connections that we have with books. So, what exactly is going to be the content here? Well, like I said, I'm going to be talking a lot about books. And there'll be a lot of book reviews about books I'm reading. Right now I'm reading the Space Trilogy by C.S. Lewis. So I'll be doing some reviews on those books, which they are rather fascinating. But I'll also do like episodes on topics surrounding books, like Paulo Coelho's The Alchemist. I read that years ago, and there was an old Arabic parable, well, an ancient Arabic parable is a better way to say it, that I found very confusing and I thought about for a decade because it didn't make any sense. So I'm going to talk about, does it make any sense? And other interesting book ideas. Like, for example, anyone who has seen The Boy and the Heron by Hayao Miyazaki, what is the book that is featured in there? Well, I have it, and I'm going to read it and talk about that as well. So, book-related topics, of course, but I'm also going to expand outside of books. Like I said, stories aren't just in books themselves. They can also be told in movies. And there's storytelling concepts that I find fascinating as well. Like, here's an example. Did you know that there's two kinds of good movies? That if someone tells you that a movie is good, they're actually talking about one of two kinds of movies. One of two kinds of good movies. Which one are they talking about? It's really important to know that, well, not really important, but it really helps to understand which type of good movie they're referring to. And I also talk about like movie adaptions of books, TV show adaptions of books, because like I said, everyone has different experiences with books. And when it comes to movie adaptions, that's the experience, say, the producer or the director has with a book, and that's what they want to portray. And I find the interpretations, what they change, what they don't, I find all of that fascinating. Like, here, let me give you a quick example. The Moon Spinners by Mary Stewart. This is a fantastic book. Really enjoyed it. It was published in 1962. And Disney, fascinatingly, did a movie adaptation of this book in 1964. That's when it was released. 2 years after this was published. And I saw that Disney did a movie on the Moon Spinners, and I hadn't read the book yet. So I decided I want to watch the movie, but I got to read the book first. So I got the book, read the book, loved it. Great book, very well written. Watched the movie, it's terrible. It is horrible. It's a really bad movie. It's badly produced, for one. I mean, there's one point in the movie where you're trying to figure out if it's daytime or nighttime. I mean, you're thinking it's supposed to be night, I think, but it looks like it's during the day. It's weird. The production of the film is terrible. But they also made some really weird changes. So, for example, there's plenty of villains in this book. Well, they take one of the villains and put him in the movie, but then they take a good guy from the book and make him a villain. I don't really understand that. I won't go into any more details other than that because I just might do a full episode on this. But that's the type of thing I find stuff like that fascinating. Another idea that I have that I may do an episode on is how Disney could have saved the live-action Snow White film with potentially minimal effort. Now, I don't want to say that I know better than any of these people. I don't. I do not know better than any of these people. I am literally just a guy who enjoys books, who enjoys examining stories, and enjoys exploring these various ideas. And this is just kind of a fun way to explore them. That's kind of the goal here. But again, like, a lot of that is for me. What is in it for you? Again, I hope it encourages you to explore connections with books. Not just connections with other people, but your own connections with books. And to relive the stories, revisit books you've really enjoyed, and get to know people through the books or stories, just generally, that they enjoy. I also hope that this is at least entertaining. I hope that I am not wasting your time, because your time is incredibly valuable, and how you use it is very important. So I hope I'm not wasting it. Finally, I hope that this provides some type of intellectual sustenance, because like we can't survive off Skittles and candy. We have to eat food of actual substance. healthy food. And I'm hoping that this can also provide some intellectual sustenance for, in reality, not only you, but also for me. Keep the wheels in my own mind turning. And that's pretty much who I am and what I plan to be doing. And thank you very much for being here. I hope I did not completely bore you and completely waste your time. I'm new at this, so bear with me. And keep reading. Keep learning. Keep progressing. Keep finding good books and enjoying them. And I will see you next time.